So in, well, typical Friday afternoon style, we've gone live, but we haven't quite finished locking up the shop. So the guys are actually, hi Kate, how are you? So Bill's actually going to bring out something really interesting for you guys to have a look at. It's pretty old, much like himself, and it's shiny as. Oi, calm down. And yeah, so hang with us.
All right, what have you got, Bill? To ease us in while everyone's still logging in,
it's something.
What have you got to talk about?
Something older than me, which is hard to find nowadays.
Highly doubt it. So this is muzzle loading then?
No.
Okay, so
it's like breech loading flare gun, made in Australia when we could make things. Made
There's
by
a little political snipe for the night.
Made by Colonial Sugar Refineries of all people.
CSR, which you've probably seen on your bags of sugar.
Yeah, they're still going. They only make sugar nowadays.
So why were they making flare guns?
Because of wartime necessity, they couldn't import them. This is a copy of a British-made flare gun, British design, single shot. The releases here.
Hold it up to the camera. Might need to turn it around. Yep.
The releases on the left-hand side, and it's just a little hoop that catches on top of this extension on the barrel. You drop a case in there, a flare, shut her up.
We have got some 1-inch flares for this gun, by the way.
Single shot, cock the hammer, bang. Rebounding hammer, so it can be carried with a flare in the chamber, and the hammer can't fall onto the primer and set it off accidentally.
So you've actually got to pull the trigger for it to go off.
You've actually got to hold the trigger back for the hammer to
like
go
a lot of
forward.
labour actions and stuff like that.
But
what identifying marks and whatnot are on it?
It's CSR Sydney, 1942. It's a Mark III star, which means it's had some an original design that's had some modifications and upgrades to it. Mainly brass.
But 1942, so made right in the guts of the war.
Right in the middle of the war, yeah. And this would have been used both in aircraft and on land and
Was that why it's brass? So it could go
by the Navy, yeah. Also,
right.
So to keep it so it wouldn't deteriorate too quickly. But the whole thing is brass except for the trigger, the locking up mechanism and the hammer. On a little V spring on this side, which is
hold it up. You can't see it.
A little V spring here, which is the spring for the lock up.
Clinton just asked, hi Tyrone, Clinton just asked, is it considered a VPF? Probably not, it probably wouldn't meet the energy requirements, but it is prohibited in Western Australia because it fires, I'm good thanks, it fires a cartridge bigger than 20mm.
Yeah.
Can you make it fit 40mm produce? Asking for a mate. Nah, sorry mate, this one here probably wouldn't take like a 40x46 round or something like that, unfortunately. But if you do want a 40x46 blank, I've actually made a couple. Yeah, so that is exactly the spec for a 40x46 round. All right. Thanks very much, Bill.
It's nitro proof, so it's got proof marks on it to show that it's been tested.
It's got a D arrow and a K, because most of the guns that have D arrow D, Department of Defence.
That's right.
What's D arrow K?
No idea.
Department of Kitchens. Well, it's the sugar refinery.
It could be, yeah. That might have been where they proofed it in the kitchen.
In the kitchen. 6030 is the serial number as well.
Yeah.
Any idea how many of these were made?
No idea, but I'm pretty sure CSR were the people that Lysart's made the Owen gun. It just shows you that there are all sorts of people and little firms building stuff during the war. Another company in Melbourne were building machinery before the war and afterwards, and during the war they built mortars. GMH built 25 pounders.
Yeah, right.
artillery. Yeah. So
When times are desperate, people will do it.
GMH.
yeah,
Those are the same guys that built Holden.
That's right.
They were still building bombs just up until the other week. Oh no, he didn't.
Oh no.
Oh no.
As opposed to that Ford factory, which is producing high quality cars now and into the future.
It is. It is.
No, they're not.
I'm a bit low today. Hello.
Yes. Hey everyone.
What? Hang on.
Yeah, so thanks very much, guys. That's Bill's piece for the week.
Thanks, Bill.
Come back with something as interesting next week if you can.
Maybe.
Yeah. So there you go. So the gun shop's closed. So now we can pull out all sorts of toys and stuff which we're not allowed to pull out when the shop's open to the public.
Pepper spray.
So I think the first thing we might talk about is we'll go over the questions from last week because we're getting a huge amount of questions and we really want to answer a lot of these questions for the guys. Saucy! And I appreciate everyone that's messaging in now. If you can get us a thumbs up just to make sure that you can hear us. We're seeing some thumbs come up now, so just making sure you can hear us because we'd hate to be running through this live video and get to the end of it and realise the audio is not working. So the first thing we do want to do is go over some questions though, and Trent has printed out a heap of the questions. For us to have a look at.
Pages of them. So
thanks for the thumbs up, guys.
we sort of picked out 3 pages worth. So yeah, bear with us. We'll get through it. Hopefully, some of you guys are watching that have asked these questions. So
I haven't seen some of these questions are going to be directed at me. Some of them are going to be directed at Trent. I haven't seen the questions, so it's going to be on the fly. So I apologise if I need to get some reference or something for it, but I'll do what I can.
alrighty. We'll start with something really simple, really easy question for today. Sean Webb, last week you asked, can I swag it? Yes.
So what Sean's talking about is if he comes out to do one of our courses, and we've just had a heap more people sign up for the marksman course as well, so we're actually doing another marksman course in the second half of the year, which we weren't going to do, but we will do a second one now because we've had a lot of interest. So if you are interested in doing a marksman course, which we spoke about on the last video, I'm not going to cover it again now, but if you want more information, just get in touch with us.
Yeah, just give us a call.
Do you know when you'll be open back up to the public? Tyrone has asked. No, Tyrone, we haven't been told anything about when we can open back up to the public, sell guns and ammo and that sort of stuff. We have been sent an updated FAQ today from Firearms Licensing, and we'll go over that in a sec.
Do you reckon Coke would sponsor us if we put it out there?
What's you doing, Tindaro?
Who's that guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
There's a bit of blowing from now and then. Right, start
Anyway.
on these questions.
All right, Chris Barge. As simple as it sounds, what are the pros and cons of different rounds of the same caliber? I.e., why would I choose one over another?
Okay.
Let's throw it out. Let's pick something simple like a 308. Why would you pick different projectiles?
That's not what this is asking.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Okay, then go on. Read it.
What's the pros and cons of different rounds of the same caliber? I read that as different rounds as in the same caliber 308, but 308, 3006, Trent and Mag.
Well, you could read it like that, I suppose.
Well, that's how I'm reading it. I'm answering the question.
Will you answer it like that?
Okay,
I'll enjoy a nice Coke.
The main
Coke
advantage is going to a bigger boiler capacity, yeah? So if you're going from, say, 308 up to a 3006, up to a 308 mag, you're getting bigger and bigger powder capacity. But there is always trade-offs. Obviously, you've got more recoil, you burn the barrel out quicker. But that's the trade-off for performance, yeah? If you want performance, you've got to you've got to pay the price for that. There's no free lunch. Now, some cartridges are designed better than others to fit inside the magazines that are available on the market right now. For example, 308 fits well into the magazines that are on the market. But 260 Remington, which is the 308 cartridge, neck down to 6.5, does not fit into the magazines well. The reason for that is 6.5 projectiles are really, really long. 260 Remington's been around for a while, never very popular, maybe in New Zealand, depending on what sort of game you're hunting. It was more popular than what it was in Australia, but generally speaking, it wasn't that popular. And proof that it was a poorly designed cartridge was that there was a lot of other options available, and most recently 6.5 Creedmoor. If 260 had been done correctly in the first place, 6.5 Creedmoor would have no following now. No one would change to it, you know what I'm saying? So the 6.5 Creedmoor as a cartridge is really, really well designed, because it was designed to fit inside the magazines that are on the market, like you know, standard short action magazine, throw-out magazine. The 6.5 Creedmoor fits into that magazine, and you've still got heaps of room for the projectile, so you're not having to push the projectile right back in on the case. So you're using the powder capacity of the case a lot more efficiently. You're getting more performance and that sort of stuff. So going for a bigger and bigger cartridge in the same caliber doesn't always benefit. But and I've always advocated that if you've got a caliber and you need more grunt, going to a different cartridge behind it is a really good option. Improving the cartridge doesn't always get that much more performance. You get a little bit less case stretch, but essentially there's nothing that you can do with an improved cartridge that you couldn't do with the parent case anyway. So I don't like improved cartridges. Like for example 3006. And 3006 is actually a moderate example. There is merit in improving a 3006 to get extra performance. But in the same magazine capacity, you could go to a 300 Win Mag or a 300 PRC now and get much more performance. You're running a lot lower pressures, because to get really high velocities with improved cartridges, you have to run high pressures, which is why people get really good figures with improved cartridges, even though they're not comparing apples and apples, but that's a story for another day. But definitely going to an improved cartridge isn't always beneficial. Going to a bigger parent cartridge is. And going to a bigger parent cartridge means you're getting more velocity. That means you can shoot a heavier projectile at a reasonable velocity, which means it's going to stay supersonic for longer, which means you can shoot further, more accurately. The bullet's going to move less in the wind. You're going to get more hits on target, yeah? But the trade-off for that is you burn the barrels out quick. So that is my answer to that question. If I've got the question wrong, then just shoot in.
Yeah, just let us know. But
Ross is watching.
Bevan, or as I like to call it,
they have to tell you within 30 minutes of meeting them. What are you talking about? What's Shane talking about? You have to tell them within 30 minutes of meeting them.
I'm not sure.
Oh, he might be talking to Ron about this.
Okay.
No beers today, Reese. We've got some there, but...
Have we?
Yeah, but it's not... And I don't mind drinking beer on camera because we're all adults here. But some people found it hard to listen to us when we were drinking and eating. That's how he interpreted the question.
That's down here. Thanks.
Oh, not the same person. But yeah.
That's all right.
That's how I interpreted it. So, but if I have an answer, if you've got another question relating to that, just shoot it through and we'll jump onto that. What's the next question?
I'm just going to keep going down the list here.
Going.
Naomi Carson asked, I would like to see a review of rifle and scope combos. The LA 105 and scope recommendations as a combo to use out to 1,000 meters. Excellent.
Okay.
If we had an LA 105 here, I'd happily get it out for you.
Yeah.
They're fantastic rifles, obviously Australian built, KRG X-ray stock on them. They float all the boat. For me, I think they're awesome. I don't know what you think of them, but
I haven't seen them. Have I seen them?
The Woomera, yeah, I've sold a number of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So obviously they floated Zaine's boat because I can't even remember seeing one. They're awesome. I love them. I think they're great. It would be what cartridge you decided to use as well, Naomi, whether you're going to go for the 308 or the 6.5.
Okay. I get what Shane's talking about now. Yep.
Yeah, excellent.
It's like blokes that do homebrew, yeah? Blokes that do homebrew, they've got to sell it to you like the Jehovah's Witness, yeah? If you ever meet a guy, you know a guy who makes his own homebrew, because you go to a party, he'll weave through the traffic to get to you to tell you about his homebrew, yeah?
Right. And, I mean... Well, if you've got a 6.5 Creedmoor, you've also got an awesome man bun. It's what?
I think that's a testament to 6.5 Creedmoor though.
Oh.
Because we've been hanging shit on 6.5 Creedmoor since they came out and it still exists, yeah? And I think that shows extra resilience over normal, heterosexual calibers.
I'm going to be on the other side of this fence. I actually think it's a fantastic cartridge and...
It is a good cartridge though. It's a really well designed cartridge.
So,
I don't even know how it got a bad name to start off with.
It really did.
I just think it came out, and us being Aussies were just like, let's hang shit on it.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so scope recommendations is the combo to use out to 1,000 metres.
Okay, so if you're shooting out to 1,000 metres, you need a 25 power scope, typically speaking. You can go higher if you're shooting competition, but if you're shooting in a practical sense, you need a 25 power scope.
Yep,
and if you're shooting out to 1,000, then you need something like a 6.5 Creedmoor, yeah? Yep. A 308, so the LA 105s in 308 come with a 1 in 11 twist barrel, which are really well suited to the 185 grain Sierra, Lapua Scanner projectile, which is only supersonic out to about 815, 850, depending on your atmospheric. So if you want to shoot out to 1,000, you can do it in 308, but you're shooting into the transonic zone and weird stuff starts to happen and it becomes less predictable. So I would go for a 6.5 Creedmoor in an LA 105, and I'd go for at least 25 power scope. I probably wouldn't go, depending on the style, there's a lot more to this question, yeah? Like we would have to ask you
a number of different things.
Yeah, what kind of shooting you were doing, whether you're doing it at night, whether you're doing it, I'm guessing, during the day, whether you're doing it on a range or out in the field. There's a lot of other questions. Because if you're shooting on a range, you're going to have range flags, you're going to have a lot more information available to you as well as other shooters, and you're going to be able to get away with using a lot more high magnification scope and placing your shots better. But if you're shooting out in the field, you're not going to have range flags, you're not going to have as much information available to you. Anything bigger than a 25 power scope, you're not going to be able to see the mirage, which means you're not going to be able to call the wind as accurately. So you're going to have to dial back anyway if you had a more powerful scope. So, yeah.
Well, Phil reckons that's why he went for the Creedmoor. He's got a man bun and he also has a rifle in the other Colt caliber of 204.
204.
Phil, you should actually have a pair of pigtails. No, I'm just joking.
I wouldn't pick on Phil.
They're actually both awesome. I like both of them, to be honest.
Oh, those Calibres.
Those Calibres, yeah. All right, hope we answered that one for you, Naomi. That's definitely a question that would take a lot longer normally to answer. All right, Nathan Flykiller, my mate. He's hanging shit on me every step of the way. He's asked, so a 28 Nosler, that would be legal for F-Class Open? Can it be done? He's actually put can't be done, but what do you reckon? 28 Nosler for F-Class Open?
No, the police have considered it 28 Nosler a very powerful rifle or firearm, and so they won't approve them. And that's for recreational use or club use, or doesn't matter if you're shooting F-Class, they won't give you a license for one. They say to use a smaller caliber, less powerful caliber, and put the targets closer. Okay. Jason Spencer's asked, what's this supersonic you talk of? Will it happen at 10 metres? So when I talk about transonic zone, so when you fire a bullet, it goes supersonic, yeah? Through a centerfire rifle, typically speaking. It goes supersonic. And then it slows down. And when it gets down to Mach 1.2, which depending on, again, on your atmospherics, Mach 1.2 is around about 1,300 feet per second. At 1,300 feet per second, the bullet starts to come back through the transonic zone, which means that parts of the bullet start to become subsonic. When it does that, it becomes unstable and it can tumble and your group size opens up. Your bullets start to corkscrew, you lose your ballistic coefficient quite considerably, and lots of weird things happen. There are ways to mitigate it, but if you want to learn more about that, then definitely look at doing one of our long range courses. It's a very complex subject that we just don't have time for tonight, unless you guys want to stay up till midnight. Solid brass hydrostatic projectiles. So the hydrostatic projectiles, which are done for, sorry, we'll jump back on this in a sec.
520 grain.
How's the 16mm DTAC developed coming along? So for those people who don't know, we necked up a 50 cal to 16mm, which I think is about as big as what I could go, and improved it and called it the 16mm DTAC. And we've got to build a gun, but no one makes a barrel at the moment because it takes a lot more pressure to push a 16mm button through a barrel, and so we'll look at it down the track. Now, by the firearms regulations, it's perfectly legal because it's less than 20mm. It's almost certainly a very powerful rifle, but a very powerful firearm. But it's definitely something that we're going to be looking at. Hydrostatic projectiles, I don't know very much about them, sorry Rodney. I know what they are, and I know the design that was made around them. And definitely from a theoretical point of view, they'll be an exceptionally good big game sort of dangerous game cartridge, like projectile, especially in 458 Win Mag. If you've got a 458 Win Mag, most 458 Win Mags you can remount to 458 lot, and I recommend that because it's a much better. Like you're only getting an extra 150 feet per second, but it makes a big difference on game. But if you've already got a license, you've already got a license.
Well, the statement of the day from Michael. Let's talk about
Shane,
Tindaro's
what does
reload.
DTAC stand for? Let's not have that conversation now, Shane. It's early. It's a bit early today. Do you know what it is?
No, I don't.
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
The one above it, though.
Me and Shane, a secret squirrel between us.
The one above it. Let's talk about Tindaro's reloading adventures.
No, we all know about that as well. Everyone who needs to know about that knows about that. So let's ask the next question.
All right. I'm going to change it up a little bit. We're going to go back to police licensing for a couple of questions.
Cool.
Because I know that's what everybody's here to see.
Well, you going to ask them a question, or are you going to ask me?
No, I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to answer it to the best of your ability for me.
All right, cool.
Alrighty. Eric Crom. Are they confiscating 338 as a VPF?
Okay, so when the very powerful thing was imagined by police licensing, one of the first things they did is they sent a letter out to everyone who owned something that they deemed a VPF, yeah? So the Shaytacs and the Lapurs and all that sort of weird stuff. And when they sent a letter out basically threatening them, saying that if you don't prove to us that you still need this, that you have a genuine need for this, we're going to take it off you. Now, this was almost 2 years ago. And they still haven't done anything about it. Everyone who's gotten those letters has contacted police licensing and not got back to ever. And I know a couple of people in particular who've spent 10 or 15 grand or more on their rifles and all the gear and everything goes with it, have had sleepless nights worried about this, that they're going to lose a huge investment. And police licensing won't talk about it. Yeah, it's only just been recently that they've actually come out and released the VPF as an official policy, and it's going to be contested in the SAT first, but it's going to depend on the outcome of a couple of other things as well. So they're not confiscating anyone who's got one at the moment. They're not confiscating it. They don't really have the ability to. Well, no, that's not true. They do, but it'll be a very difficult. They would put themselves in a very difficult position as well. Wouldn't be an easy thing to do, that's for sure. But they're not confiscating them yet, no.
Okay. Sean Wilkinson asked, are they going to appeal the very powerful firearms policy?
Are they going to
appeal?
We've already appealed it, yeah. It's already. So there's a big group of people now, and I think the numbers that was thrown around was 30 or 35 people who have appealed to SAT, yeah. So they're all in the same boat. Now this is obviously a policy that affects hundreds of people in WA, not just those 20 or 30. But this is an ongoing SAT thing. So there was initially a mediation, which was an absolute waste of time. Police wouldn't mediate about this at all. There was initially a mediation. I was part of that mediation. The mediation fell apart. The policy was released, sort of, but we couldn't talk about it. And so we freedom of information to it, so we could talk about it. Now we can talk about it. But this is a process that's been going on for 2-3 years or more now. But it keeps getting delayed for relatively silly reasons. But unfortunately at the moment it's held up because of some other cases which are before the SAT. And so we're waiting for the outcome of them before we can have the VPF argument. And so this is an ongoing thing. But hopefully 2020, for as many bad things that have happened so far, hopefully it's a conversation that we'll be having later in the year with the right people and coming to some sort of resolution. So
beautiful. Bruce Davey asked, if you have to reapply, does that mean that the money that you have spent needs to be spent again?
Yes.
Yes.
Short answer. You can apply for a refund on your application, but you only get a refund from the portion that police licensing take to process the license. You lose a good portion of it, which is for the Australia Post charge to process the license. Yeah. The other option is that you can appeal to SAT. Now, this is also it's a cost-based thing. I'm not saying that it's going to be a free thing, but if you appeal to SAT and when you get your money, you get your license approved without having to reapply. So it depends on where you want to put your money. Yeah, so I would recommend speaking to a lawyer first. before making any decisions.
Alrighty. Peter Mace. So you're telling me that my plans to build a 338 lap is a waste of time?
Yes, right now it is.
Straight up. That was nice and easy.
Go on, you got to ask me another one.
Yeah, there's a couple of long ones in here. I'm just trying to get through the short ones quickly so we can knock them off. And then we're going to get on to one that you're going to enjoy, which is, I think you're going to like it. So,
how you liking it so far, guys? Make sure you're shooting any questions that you've got, like if any of this sort of, yeah.
All right, Mark Jaswinski. Hopefully I said that right. Obviously keen to support our lovely dealers. Oh, thanks, mate. But would WWII social members get benefits with WWII registered dealers, i.e. member benefits like RAC as member discounts or something exclusive with their dealers?
Okay, so a bit of an update on this. And I have to be a little bit careful because I'm not here to talk about WWII. I'm not representing WWII here right now. I'm not wearing a WWII shirt or anything like that. So, but we have been advertising this social membership. And I think I can say that the WWII had a meeting the other night that I was a part of. And during the meeting, we discussed the social membership, which was still going ahead. We just might call it something different because there is a social membership prescribed under our constitution that we can grant social membership, but it is reserved for people that are still associated with the firearms industry. And so what we actually can't offer people social membership unless you're an industry member. And so we are going to title it something else, but it'll be in the, and because we're in the middle of a crisis at the moment, it's very hard, like, because we're having to do everything relatively, over a short period of time and try and get it out quickly. But it'll be more of a donation than a social membership in the short term, yeah? And because all the money, we're actually needing money now to invest into the fights that we're having, we decided as a committee that in the short term, we're not going to be able to offer very much to the people that want social membership, other than that you'll be a social member and that the money that you're contributing will go straight into the fight itself. Like, there's not going to be a portion of that dedicated for hats and pens and that sort of stuff. Everything at the moment is going into the fight that we're having, yeah? So now down the track, once this is finished, then definitely we'll reword this. We'll have it as a better way of actually tracking membership to this, which is actually quite difficult. I'm not the treasurer. The treasurer actually prescribed out how difficult it would be in the short term to keep track of this, and so we decided not to go down that road. But we're definitely going through with the social membership thing. So I do recommend signing up. You go to the homepage of the West Australian Firearms Traders Association. Don't search for WWII because you'll get the Textile Association. You want the Firearm Traders Association on the homepage. Scroll to the bottom and you can sign up for membership there. So, but it's not going to be a membership in the short term. It is going to be a donation, yeah. But I'll get in touch with everyone that's expressed interest in there, and I will give them the information personally on the actual program that'll be running. But you can be rest assured that any contribution into the WWII is going to be going straight into the actual war chest, for want of a better word, and I don't like that word, for the actual programs that we're going to be running, yeah? So while you're not going to get a direct benefit back in the short term in regards to discounts at dealerships or promotional material like hats and shirts, all the money is going to be actually fighting for your ability to enjoy your sport. Okay?
That was really well answered, thank you, mate. And Bruce Davies actually online, so he actually got to see, hopefully you got to see the answer to your question, mate. Let us know if you did, because that was a good question.
Appreciate it, Bruce. Thanks very much for that.
Alrighty. Moving on to something that's a little bit more fun now, if that's alright.
Do you want to answer, Conrad?
Conrad, much.
You're supposed to be keeping an eye on this while I'm talking.
Yeah, I was.
That was the deal that we had
Well,
before.
I was, but somebody called us the two Ronnies. So,
The
so
two Ronnies.
the two Ronnies. It says used to remind me of the two Ronnies, and I
okay.
and I. Got
it doesn't
distracted
remind
by
me of the two Ronnies because I'm not that old. I'm not old enough to remember what the hell is the two Ronnies. You two remember it. It shows how old you are.
Ronnie Corbett and Ronnie Barker.
I'm not that
Who
old.
the hell is that?
Shit.
Anyway, much clarification.
You need to shave your head again, and then we can be Clark and Dorr.
I don't even know who that is.
For fuck's sake.
Anyway, much clarification on H license required.
Yeah, you're still going to have to meet your requirements.
Yeah,
That's the
so
short answer.
doesn't look like they're going to give you any exemptions or anything like that at this point in time.
They're
Seems
not
like-
having any sort of conversation at all.
No.
Now,
So-
and there's two sides to this argument, yeah?
Do I polish or
I'm not
leave?
going to go into it now.
Do I polish or leave the inlet manifold rough when souping up my 253? Well, Teddy,
You need to polish up the inlet manifold.
what you need to do, hook it up to a chain, lift it out of whatever you've got it in, and go and drop it in the ocean because it's shit. If you want to put a 253 into anything, then you're a dickhead.
Right.
Anyway,
So,
moving on.
do you want? Have you still got more questions, or do you want to talk about something else?
I thought this.
No, you still got questions.
I thought this
keep going.
question would then work into
Keep
this.
going. Well, you've been doing questions for a while, that's all, so hurry up.
Phil Kavanagh. What makes an accurate long-range rifle? What are good off-the-shelf options, and how does that compare with a full-on custom build? I.e., how much more accurate can the hardware get before you factor in the user?
Okay. The user's always going to be a factor, yeah? So, and it depends. We need to define some of these terms.
Weak link.
Yeah, definitely the pink thing, and that's not trying to be racist, because it might be the brown, yellow, red, or white thing, but the pink thing behind that's with its finger on the trigger is usually to blame for most of it, yeah? But generally speaking, let's define some terms here. First, what makes an accurate long-range rifle? So we need to define the terms accurate and precision, okay? Precision is the ability for a rifle, irrespective of, like, let's pretend we've got a perfect shooter. Precision is the ability of the rifle to put one shot on top of another, yeah? So that's what bench rest shooters are looking for. They're looking for precision. They're looking for the tightest group that you can shoot. Accuracy is the ability of the shooter to center the group over top of the target, okay? It's that long range and that sort of stuff. So you can have a gun which has got really good precision, shoots a really tight group, but is very inaccurate.
Hi, Jamie.
Yeah, so the shooter is very inaccurate. So you might be shooting at a target at 300 metres and all the bullets hit the ground. Yeah, they hit the ground in a very tight group, but they will hit the ground. So you're not shooting very accurately. And you can have the reverse. You can have a gun that's got very poor precision. Maybe it shoots a 2 or a 3 inch group, but the group is centered over the target at whatever range it is. Might be 300, might be 1,000 meters. Yeah. So they're two very different terms. Now, when you say accurate, what I think you mean is precision. What makes a precision long-range rifle? Okay. So then let's look at the variables of a rifle itself, yeah? And it's not just the rifle, it's the rifle, the scope, the ammunition are the three main things that I'll talk about. The rifle itself. So we're talking about accuracy, okay? The ability to group. First things first, it's got to have a decent barrel in it, and the barrel has to be consistent throughout its length. If you've got a barrel that the diameter slightly opens up towards the muzzle end of the barrel, it'll never group. It won't be able to shoot a group out of it, yeah? If you've got a barrel that's got damage to the crown or to the last 1.5 inches of barrel, it won't shoot a group.
Good work, Scott. Thanks for that, mate.
And you need a barrel that's got a good internal finish, and I'll explain why in a minute. So the barrel itself is a really, really important, and that goes without saying, but it's a very important part of the whole setup, yeah? You need a really good scope. So the scope needs to be able to track correctly, yeah? And it needs to be able to hold at zero very accurately without losing zero, without moving around. And then the last part is your ammunition. So your ammunition needs to be very, very consistent. You need very consistent pressures. You need to have a very accurate chamber, and the cases need to be sized to that chamber. The chamber can't be too slack, or the cases can't be too far undersized. You need to have tight headspace. So there's a lot of those sort of factors that come into the ammunition itself. The ammunition needs to have a very consistent neck tension, so that the pressure of the neck holding the projectile in needs to be very consistent, or your velocities will go up and down, and you need a very consistent volume of powder, or you get your velocities go up and down as well. So there's a few different components there which build a very accurate rifle. Now, sorry, they build a precision rifle, yeah? Now, all of that is held into the stock. The stock needs to contact the action very consistently. It needs to, the action needs to hold up against a recoil lug of some sort in the stock. And so every time you fire a shot, the action's not moving. There's no movement between the action and stock.
The stock has to be rigid too.
Yeah, exactly. The stock has to be rigid and not change in atmospheric conditions. Like if it's very humid or very hot, the stock needs to stay consistent and consistent tension on the screws. And the barrel needs to float. Is generally the best. It doesn't have to, but generally the best way is to have a floating barrel for the consistency. So that's all to get a precision gun. To get an accurate gun, you need to know all the variables associated with your firearm to be able to place the rounds over the target. And the biggest two are atmospherics are very important. But I'm not going to get into atmospherics now. But if you want stuff that you can do now is choose the highest ballistic coefficient projectile you can find, because you're going to have less drop, you're going to have less wind drift, which means it's going to be much easier to center your group over the target. And you're going to need to get your velocity deviation right down. If there's a big variation in the velocity of your rounds, it might be because the volume of powder is inconsistent, might be because your neck tension is inconsistent. But if you've got a big variation in the velocity of your rounds, the group will be very tall. If you get the variation down, the group height gets much smaller. And same with wind. If you're not calling the wind correctly, you'll have a very wide group, and then as you call the wind better, your group will come in that way. Yeah, so that's how you get a tight group centered over the target at long range.
So Michael's asked, so why are there wood stocks in F-class then?
Well, because wood stocks, a lot of wooden stocks are actually pillar bedded, yeah, so they've got an alloy block inside them that keeps the thing. But it's not to say that a wooden stock is necessarily a bad thing. It might change every time you go out, it might change slightly, but as long as it doesn't change during the match, it'll be consistent.
Should that make an aluminium chassis the best option? It's a good option.
Aluminium.
Yeah.
Yeah, aluminium makes a good stock.
Yeah. The proof's in the pudding. Aluminium stocks shoot exceptionally well. Someone's just pointed out because there's a difference in thermal expansion. And you're right, there's a difference in thermal expansion between aluminium and steel. But at the end of the day, as long as you've got the screws nipped up tight, they're consistent. How consistent are factory loads? Usually you'll get a spread of around about 15 feet per second standard deviation. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Hand loads you want to get under 10. 10 or under.
Okay. Thanks, Phil, for that question. Did you enjoy answering that one?
Yeah, wood stocks. A good wood stock will be dried out correctly and then oiled so it'll be stable.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I've answered the question correctly. Off-the-shelf options. Okay, so off-the-shelf stocks that are in guns that are in alley chassis. The most consistent gun that I've ever shot off the shelf, and that's over dozens of guns, is a Seiko TRG-42. Yeah. That's the most consistent gun that I've ever shot.
Did you see Bill's head get just a touch bigger?
Yeah. The internal finish of the barrels is exceptional, their quality control is exceptional, and the bedding system in it is exceptional. You get what you pay for. Next question.
Next question. All the rest are just now, we're pretty much up to suggestions just on product reviews and stuff like that. So I think this will be...
We'll get into product reviews later.
Yeah.
Do you want to get product review now?
Yeah,
do you want to do that now, or do you want to do that now?
Nah, let's do the bottle openers first, mate.
All right, we'll talk about bottle openers first.
All right.
We'll flog you something while we've got all these people's
Alrighty.
here.
So.
No, we want the other ones.
I'm getting there.
So this is an original Australian Defence Industries manufactured 50 BMG case with a Hornady AMAX projectile in it that I've turned into a bottle opener. You would have seen these before. But we're selling these for $45 and we're selling them with free engraving. So you can get anything you want engraved on them. We've got one here, which it's hard to see on the camera actually, but it's engraved around it. Hashtag worst apocalypse ever. As you would appreciate, there's nowhere near enough zombies in this apocalypse.
This one here, we've got the very powerful bottle opener.
So Shane Elmore will love this one, yeah? I might actually send one up to him, yeah. There you go, Shane, I'll put one in the mail for you. So they're $45. Is that $45 including, how much do you reckon post will be around Australia?
Oh,
$45 including post.
Yeah, not much.
Anywhere in Australia you want one, $45, we'll post it to you.
Just give me a call,
very
send me an email.
Bottle opener.
Yeah.
Because it is a 50 BMG.
Oh,
very powerful.
This one is
this
one's from Bill. I don't know whether I want to say it.
I'll say it. I don't care.
Alright, go on.
Bill's got one. If you can eat it or fuck, if you can't eat it or fuck it, leave it alone. So, like I said, you can get anything engraved on your bottle opener. And so $45 posted anywhere in Australia. Whatever you want written engraved on it as well. Can you make one in Creedmoor for us with the man buns that open our premix cans? Well, I can make you one in Creedmoor. You don't it's not going to be strong enough.
And you're not going to open anything that you fellas drink.
No.
So you'll have to stick to your poppers of juice, I suppose.
Yeah. You might open a can of pink lemonade or something.
That's probably about it.
Yeah.
6.5 is a good cartridge. Anyway.
Okay. What else are we talking about tonight?
We'll
get back to that. All right.
I want to give away a couple of hats. Can I give away a couple more hats?
All right.
What question are we going to ask from the guys? A couple more precision shooting hats, guys.
What's the two things that are the most important? Okay. You got two cartridges.
No.
One's better than the other at long range shooting. There's two factors that come into having a successful long range cartridge. Who can tell me what they are?
What type of question is that?
Well, it's an easy question. There's two things that will make your cartridge successful at long range shooting. There's two things. This was the first lesson that Glenn Roberts taught me 10, 11 years ago. So what is the two things about a cartridge design or about the components of a cartridge which make it a successful long distance? Yes, I need more information than that.
I want you all to be aware though, if you are wearing this hat out in public, you will get hit on more.
Kate, you're technically correct, but I'm looking for more information.
Kev.
Yeah, okay,
yeah. Kev can have one. Fuck it.
Take it. Yeah, makeup and good hair. Teddy, you haven't got any hair.
And we're not talking about the hair on your back, mate.
Wait. Oh, we got one there.
What do we got?
David
Nye.
David Nye. Ballistic coefficient. Yep. So David gets one. The projectile ballistic coefficient, is one of the first things to consider. The higher the ballistic coefficient, the flatter it's going to shoot, the less wind drift you're going to have, the more hits on target at long range you're going to have. Yeah.
David,
so ballistic coefficient is the first one, and then the other factor.
David, give me a call tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Tuesday, or send us a message or whatever.
Oh, it's a long weekend.
If you want to come in and grab it, you can. If you want us to. Yeah, if you're not in the state, we'll post it out. Yeah,
but we'll post it out with the $45 bottle opener you're going to buy as well.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But let us know. Get it scrolling so we can get to the next answer.
Oh, is it not scrolling?
No, you're scrolling up. Remember?
No.
Scoop. No, Scoop. You don't get a hat.
You don't get a hat. No.
Kev, you get a hat anyway, mate, because that was one of the good answers.
No. Yes, but no.
David's in Honeydoe, yes.
Okay,
I'll see you on Tuesday or whenever.
If anyone just wants to scroll up and find out what Scoop says, he got the answer right.
And then the first person to copy and paste Scoop's answer.
And it's not a coincidence that he's... It's not a coincidence that he's gone on like 6 long-range shoots, so he should know.
And he can nearly shoot.
He can nearly shoot.
He runs an old
If
man.
he got a rifle, if he got one of his own rifles, he'd probably... I have to take rifles out all the time for him to bloody use, because he hasn't got any of his own guns.
And remember that whole time he gave me a whole heap of shit. He had to have a 6.5.
Okay, Luke Edwards, you get the other one.
Luke Edwards, Luke, give me a call on Tuesday, mate. And
okay, so the other one is speed. So if you've got two rounds and they're both firing the same projectile and one's shooting it faster than the other, you're going to end up with a high hit percentage. Yeah. So they're the two factors. High BC, shoot it as fast as you can, which is why I built myself a 7mm rum like years ago. Yeah. Big high BC 7mm projectiles, and I'm pushing them at 32, 50 feet per second or something like that. And so your hit percentages is just nuts. And 7mm rum is not a VPR, so if you want one, let me know.
I kind of feel sorry for Kate. She had most of those.
She had a close one. Do you want to give Kate one anyway?
Kate,
give Kate one.
Kate, give me a call on Monday. You can have a hat as well.
You were close enough.
Because you did really well on that one. You just got sort of pipped by. Yes. There you go.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Do you want to move on?
Yes.
All right. So we've talked about that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is rifle scopes. So we're getting a lot of questions about long range optics and what you need in them and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So this is a Leupold Mark V. This is a 7-35. This is sort of the pinnacle of long range optics at the moment on the market. And there's a lot of features about this scope which are very, very desirable and very needed.
Yes, Cap, get in touch with me and I will post you under Tassie.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go through this scope. So it's 7-35 power. So it's a little bit more grunt than what you would need for a typical practical outdoor sort of rifle scope on like MOA or 2 MOA targets out to 1,500 meters or more. But so it has got a little bit more grunt. So on those days when there's not as much mirage, where you can see the mirage easily, you can crank it up to 35 power. But they do make this scope in a 5 to 25, which would probably be my pick. Yeah. So first thing first, you need a lot of grunt, but you need a big enough front lens that you get at least a 2 to 3 millimeter exit pupil. What do I mean by exit pupil? You get the frontal diameter divided by the power, that's your exit pupil, and that's the beam of light that you can see coming out through the scope. Can you see that little beam of light there in the middle? Yeah, and as I crank the power back, that beam of light gets bigger and bigger. You can see that big beam of light now. Yeah, that's the exit pupil. If it's too small, you won't be able to see anything. How does it compare with the Nightforce 7-35? That's a good question, Scoop, and we'll get to that in a sec about how gay Nightforce. No. So we've got a client that really likes Nightforce scopes. The Nightforce make a scope that's almost identical to this and has almost identical features. There's a couple of things that I personally like about this, which the Nightforce don't have, and there's a couple of things about the Nightforce that I really like that this doesn't have. But that's coming down to personal preference now, which one you would go for between the two, because they're within a couple $100 each other. Yeah?
Honestly, we've had them side by side in the shop, comparing them, looking out and
we've had them out the farm.
Yeah, well,
and
we've done that as well. But...
So, anyway, so you need enough grunt, you need a bigger front lens. Now, the main thing about main tube diameters do not directly affect light transmission. A bigger tube does not mean a brighter image, yeah, necessarily. But the erector system, which is inside the tube, the bigger that is, the more light transmission you have. And a bigger tube can house a bigger erector system. But the bulkier the erector system, the less adjustment you've got, which is something that you need for long range shooting. So if you're shooting long range, you'll need a minimum of 80 MOA of adjustment, yeah, which is just over 30 mils of adjustment, yeah. Any less than that, and you're going to struggle at long range, even with a MOA base, yeah. That's something else that you're going to need. I highly recommend, regardless of the gun you've got, get an MOA base for it, because you're wasting half the adjustment in the scope straight away by not having one. So you need a big tube. Big tube means lots of adjustment, which means you can shoot long range much easier. Because don't forget, because this is a round tube, as you adjust your elevation all the way up to shoot long range, because you're coming into the bottom of the tube, you're running out of windage as well, yeah? And you need windage at long range to allow for the wind, that's why it's called windage. Without that, yeah, I know. Without that, you're going to struggle, yeah? So bigger main tube, the better. we've been over the power. The other one is the elevation adjustment. Now, there's people that prefer MOA. So people that are in their 60s, probably past their prime, probably shouldn't be shooting, who prefer MOA. Yeah, and those sorts of people do whatever you like. All you boomers out there,
It's
happy.
It's hard to judge when your reticle's in furlongs and
Yeah, yeah.
Chains and roots.
chains.
Yeah, yeah.
And yards.
Change to the acre or something.
Poor old Scoop. Sorry, mate. You're
He's
copping
copping
it
shit,
today,
yeah.
I mean.
So, but most long-range scopes nowadays are all going to be in mil, yeah. And so this is no exception. So what mils is a relatively technical mathematical term, but basically there's 2 pi mils in a circle, yeah. Basically, tenth. This is a tenth of a mil adjustment, so each click is 1/10 of a mil. 10 clicks is 1 mil. A 1 click is 10 millimeters at 100 meters. Okay, so it's quite an easy thing, but it goes beyond that. Once you start wanting to do long range shooting and wanting to allow for wind, if you want to start shooting moving targets and that sort of stuff, it is much easier to do it with a mil type system than what it is with an MOA system, because an MOA system you need to use constants in there. And it becomes very technical and pain in the ass.
Did you just say 2 pies?
What did I say?
But that's the best statement of the night.
When? What was I talking about? 2 pies. I didn't say 2 pies.
Get fucked, I'm in MOA. Has this just has this divided Facebook or what? This is fantastic. Anyway, sorry, continue.
So yeah, I definitely recommend if you are wanting to do long range shooting, going for a mil scope, because all mil scopes will be the same. But not only that, all the mil reticles will equate correctly with the mil adjustments, and your mate with a mil scope will have exactly the same things, and so you can call each other's shot and that sort of stuff. So definitely mils wanted. The other thing you're going to need, you pretty much need for long range shooting, is zero stop. So you've heard me clicking this thing around and adjusting it. When I adjust this back to 0, it stops. That's why it's called zero stop. A lot of obvious things with long range shooting. So I stop, click, bang, it stops. And the reason that's important is because you can sight this in at 100 meters or whatever it is you want to sight it in at, and then adjust up to shoot long range, 2, 3, 800, 1,000 meters. And then when you wind it down, you don't have to remember how many turns you've done. You don't have to remember where you are on the dial. You just click back to 0 and you know you're back at 100. Yeah. If you're ever out shooting and you can't remember where 0 was last, you just screw it back to 0. Yeah. Or if you get lost in the dial, you just screw it back to 0, start again.
That's actually one of the main reasons why when we're out doing our long range course that a lot of people miss the next target that we move on to. Is because they try and dial up the next elevation, they forget that they haven't taken it back to 0, or they don't have a zero stop scope, they mess it up, and then we've got to basically start from scratch.
Yeah. This scope is the Mark V, and so it actually comes with 0 lock. So this button that's on the elevation adjustment actually locks the dial. You can't move it. You've actually got to push the button in to adjust it. On the second rotation around, that button actually disappears inside. So you can see that it's gone inside, so you know you're on your second rotation. And then on the third rotation, it actually disappears even further inside.
No, that thing sticks up.
Yeah, but that disappears even further inside.
Oh, yeah,
on the third turn.
I just look on that little knob that sticks up.
Yeah, well, that'll stick up too. Doesn't it just stick up on the...
Nah.
On the third turn.
The third turn.
Okay. So you can tell... You can actually feel whether you're on, so if you're in the dark at night, you can feel what rotation you're on. It locks it so you can't bump it. So you know you're always, if it's locked, you're at 100 meter 0. So they're all really desirable features. The other thing you need is you need a mil reticle, and I'm not going to be able to show you because it's, maybe I can show you. No, I'm not going to be able to because this is a front focal plane scope, which I will talk about in a sec. Can you see that reticle in there? Oh, look at that. So that reticle that's in there has got little marks and big marks. So little marks are 1/2 mil, big marks are 1 mil. And so they actually match up with the dial correctly. So if you fire a shot and miss, you'll actually be able to see on that reticle where you missed. And you'll know exactly what you need to adjust, yeah, to get you back. Or if you're shooting and someone's spotting for you and they've got that reticle, their reticle, they'll be able to yell out what the miss was, and then you'll be able to adjust from there. So, mil reticle, mil adjustments, lots of adjustment, 25 power, big front objective, are all really desirable features. Now, if you are wanting to do long range shooting, but you don't have the sort of coin to drop on something like this, it's fine. You can go down to other optics that are on the market which are exceptionally good for long range shooting, but you're always going to sacrifice something, okay? So that's the Mark V. Leupold have got a really good, Leupold, I really like Leupold, but also they've got a really good series of scopes for different people in the market. So it's really easy to compare like different Leupolds, so that way we're not changing all the variables to give you a better idea of what's on the market. This is the LRP, it's written on the top of the dial. The LRP is what they used to call their old, like their VX3, VX3i, that's what this is the VX3i LRP. And it's a 25 power scope, yeah, so it goes 8.5 to 25, whereas that one over there is a 7 to 35. It's got a lot bigger adjustment range. So it's the one advantage to that. This has only got a 30mm tube instead of a 35mm tube, so it's got 85 MOA of adjustment instead of 125, I think the other one's got. Or in 35 power, it might actually only have 100, but the 5 to 25 has got 128 MOA of adjustment, which I think is the biggest on the market. I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, Night Force might be near it.
No, Night Force is 125.
I'm not sure though. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that's the biggest though.
But either way,
the Mark V is about $4,000, I think, for that big one.
Yeah,
David,
I think you would change out of $4,000 for it.
Yeah.
Whereas this is what, a $1,900 scope?
Yeah,
$2,800. It's probably just gone up in price,
yeah,
unfortunately.
Just with the new price range, it's just put it over $2,000.
Well, this one's $1,895. So once this one sells, the next one will be over $2,000.
Yeah.
But this one's $1,895.
I got one of these on my rifle. They're fantastic. I love them.
So same, nice big front lens, 25 power, 30mm tube, 85mm of adjustment. So it's really good. What this doesn't have is that the turret doesn't lock. So this turret at the top, you can adjust it. Or you can adjust it back to 0. It's got 0 stop, but it doesn't lock in position. Okay, so you are losing a couple of things that we've outlined going down to this scope, but it is a much cheaper scope. But this, to be honest, this is the most popular long-range scope that we're selling on the market right now. Now, if you're a boomer, you can get this in MOA. Okay, this one's in mil, but they do make it in MOA for sea captains and pirates and crap.
They've actually got quite a few.
So you can ride your horse.
Choices. So
you can ride your horse and cart
got your
out to the
TMR,
farm
you got your
and do your long range shooting
MOA.
with your 45-70 muzzle loader.
They do that like impact. I don't know. What do they do that? It's got all the Christmas tree on it anyway.
Tremor and
yeah,
those ones.
Tremor and all that. So
I'm not trained in using tremor. It's something I wanted to do, but I don't know that much about it myself. I know what it does. I know what it is. And I've got all the theory behind it, but I haven't used it myself, so I don't talk about that.
Scoops asks, can you explain the concept of total adjustment?
That's all the way from one way to all the way the other way. There's your total adjustment, Scoop.
Oh, he's just copping it, isn't he?
Okay, so
That's scooping.
Yeah.
yeah.
If you...
So yeah, you're losing a couple of things going to this, but like on some courses where we've got 4 or 5 people on a course, 4 of them will be using one of these in some courses. Yeah. Now there's a lot of other people that are using like Bushnells and Swarovski and that sort of stuff. You've got to be careful which Swarovski you get though, because a lot of Swarovskis are very limited in their adjustment. You're only getting like 40 MOA of adjustment. Yeah, you can't even shoot out past 600 meters. Well, they're not designed for long range shooting. Some of those, it's not the same class. Like they're in shooting stuff at maybe not long distance, but where you need exceptional clarity to shoot some European game, which are really good at blending in, and in very low light conditions. Okay,
And no further than 300 metres, probably.
Yeah, that's right.
Very nice.
Yeah, in heavily wooded areas and whatnot, you'd be lucky to see anything in that distance.
Surrounded by Lederhosens.
Yeah.
Germans.
So that's the LRP. And then we've got the 6 to 18 Mark AR.
Yes, let me just grab that for you. Oh, I left it at home. Sorry about that.
He was told yesterday to bring it in because we're going to be talking about long-range scopes and it's Loophole's sort of entry long-range scope, and it is a good scope. And I said, well, bring it in and we'll show it in the lineup. Oh, I forgot it.
I had one job to do this morning and no, I didn't even remember my lunch, so sorry about that, guys. It is actually an excellent scope. I think they...
What was that one on nose rifle?
Okay, so Nays rifle, which I've got here. So this is Nays 6.5 284.
When are we going to be?
So all of you guys with 6.5s, you are losing in powder capacity to a woman. This is her 6.5 284. So it's like a 30-06 neck down to 6.5. Really, really good long range caliber. And she's got one of my rifle scopes on it. So this is a Mark IV Leupold. Now the Mark IVs, when they came out, they had different turret options, and the mill turret was called an M5. They also had a lock turret, but that was ITARS controlled. You couldn't get it into the country. We did everything to try and get it in the country. We couldn't get it into the country. This is a Mark IV, but we fitted a LRP, well had fitted, an LRP top turret. So now it's got zero lock, or zero stop, sorry. So you can do long range shooting. So if you've got a Mark IV, and the one thing that let the Mark IVs down was that they didn't have zero stop. If you want zero stop fitted, talk to us. We'll get a LRP top dial fitted to it. But that's essentially, that is basically an LRP, but in their military series. And for all those people out there that are wondering, there is no difference between the two, yeah? Like people are like, oh, it's a Mark IV, it's for military, it must be different, you know, it must be built different. No. Even a VX1, well, they don't make them anymore, but even the VX1s were tested to the same sort of stringent tests that what the Mark IVs were tested to, okay?
Scoop, what about parallax?
What about parallax?
You know all about parallax, Scoop.
Parallax, okay, so parallax, what parallax is the best way to explain it is that you've got, when you're looking through a scope, you've got the reticle and you've got the target, yeah, the object that you're looking at. And if they're not in the same plane, they're going to look like one over top of the other. So if you move your head, everything's going to move relative to each other. That's called parallax error. And you want to try and minimize that as much as possible, okay? But it's not as important for long range shooting if you've got parallax adjustment, because it's relatively minimal at long range, and I'll explain why. Because the main difference, the main error with parallax is in relation, like the difference in the distance, you know what I'm saying? So if you've got a parallax set to 100 and you're shooting at 200, you're basically going to have the same parallax error as if you were shooting at, if your parallax was set to 1,000 and you were shooting at 2,000, you know what I'm saying? Because it's angular. So if you've got your parallax set to 800 and you're shooting at 850, you're not going to have any parallax error, it doesn't matter. It's mainly at short ranges, like with air rifles and that sort of stuff. When you've got your parallax set to 50 meters, but you're only shooting at 10, yeah? The other thing that parallax does though, is it does bring in the focus, so everything looks crisp and sharp and whatnot. But parallax is actually exacerbated when you've got large objective lenses, which is why a lot of target scopes have only got 40mm front lenses, because you're only shooting during the day.
It's a fantastic answer. You're going to bring out our next awesome...
Okay, what, the sail thing?
The sail thing.
The sail thing. The
sail
thing we're
thing.
going to flog.
So, as you guys are all aware, because this has been happening for a while, we can't sell firearms, we can't sell licensable products, components, ammunition and the like.
Projectiles, powder, we can't sell it, but we can sell gun stocks and accessory type things.
Yeah, not magazines, things like that though, but other stuff. Now, you guys have been asking for different products that we might be able to do, that you guys might be able to buy and help us out, basically. So, Zaine has put his thinking cap on, and we all know that everybody needs a muzzle brake. Only problem is that a lot of muzzle brakes need to be fitted, and especially ours, they need to be timed up correctly to make them fit.
I'll explain why muzzle brakes are important for long range shooting in a bit, if you want.
Okay, that'd be fantastic.
You keep talking.
What you could do is not look like you're bored while you're doing this.
It's not that I'm bored.
Well done. Now, you actually...
My neck's hurting.
Excellent. So,
you wouldn't know what that's like.
I have a neck. Thumbs up if you guys think I've got a neck. Look, it is here. It's just covered by this awesome manly beard.
You pull that shirt slightly to one side, there'll be a nipple there. That's the fucking top of your chest.
The nipple's down here, mate. The nipple's down here. Anyway, moving on. Hold that muzzle brake back up for us. So this is our new, and by ours, his creation. So this is a muzzle brake that you guys can buy off us, take home, and actually time up yourselves.
Alright, so this is our muzzle brake design at the front here. We've been making them like this for a long time.
Someone gave us a thumbs down. That's mean, man. I've got a neck. You can see it. It's right here.
It's not there. So our muzzle brake design, it's solid on the bottom, as you'll see. Flutes are on the side and they come out the top. So the muzzle brake vents out the top and out the side, so it keeps your muzzle flipped down, reduces your recoil. Very important for long range shooting. The more your gun jumps, especially if you're shooting off a bipod, and they're really popular nowadays. Bipods tend to spring a little bit, tend to jump, and you end up with a group that's very up and down because of that, because your flip shot's high. Muzzle brakes prevent that. They keep your muzzle down while you're shooting. So really, really good for long range shooting. Now, but our design, you've always typically had to bring the gun in and had us custom make, fit, machine a muzzle brake. What this is something that I can now sell on the internet, phone up or whatever, and I can send it to you in the post. And this one's 5.8/24, so if your barrel's 5.8/24, it'll screw straight on there. But I can make this in any thread. If you've got a European gun at 15.1, 14.1, like your tickers and your sows and that sort of stuff, I can make it in either of them. Or if it's like 18.1 or something weird, or 1/2 inch 28 or 1/2 inch 20, I can make it in that as well. But basically what it is you've got your muzzle brake and it screws onto the gun itself, yeah? The problem's always timing it up. So it's square, so the flat's at the bottom. With this one, it's got a nut, but it's not like a normal nut. Normally what you would have to do is you would have to screw the nut up. You'd have to hold the muzzle brake and put a spanner on the nut and lock the nut up at the same time while holding the gun square. Not very easy to do. This one, the nut is actually, and it'll look correct for you guys because everything's reversed, the nut's actually left-hand thread. So while the muzzle brake's right-hand thread, the nut is left-hand thread. Now what that means is if you've got a gun like this with a 5.8/24 thread, you screw the muzzle brake on until it comes up against the shoulder. Now you won't be able to see, or unless you hold it square, but the muzzle brake's gone past time. Yeah? So what you need to do is you need to rotate this back to time and then lock it up. But what you do is you rotate it back past time a little bit, and then you rotate the nut up until it hits the shoulder, and then you lock the whole thing up. You just put a bar through there, and I can supply them with bars, and you just lock the whole thing up. And because the nut is left-hand thread, it's not going to slip as you try and tighten the muzzle brake up. If it was a right-hand thread, it would just slip back and you would go past time again. Because it's left-hand thread, the more you tighten the brake up, the more you tighten the nut up, the whole thing stays rock solid, yeah? So this is a design of muzzle brake that I make. I can make it in any finish as well if you want it black, if you want it sandblasted finish. This one's just come straight off the machine, so it's shiny. But very easy for the person, whoever owns it, to fit. Rotate that, click, done.
Locked up.
Locked up. You just put a bar in there, a piece of brass. I've probably got a heap of brass there. It's a brass or alley to just as a handle to hook it up, and that's what it is. So these are new on the market. I am doing it like what were we going to sell them at?
All right, so
you know the price.
Yep. So we're going to do them for $3.25. At this point in time, that'll include postage. So if you want one,
no, we'll do an intro price for them. That's new on the market. $2.75, $50 off. So anyone that's watching tonight, you ring up or email us in, and I'll let you have one for $275. That's including the postage.
Well, thanks for letting me know
Anywhere in
that.
Australia.
That's cool. I'll just look up
And whatever calibre, you just need to tell us what thread you want it in. You need to tell us what calibre you want it in, because they're all drilled out per calibre to keep them tight. And yeah, so ballpark 275. Yeah,
with postage.
Phil Krajek, what's a left-hand thread?
That's the opposite of a.
Opposite of a right-hand thread.
Yeah.
So just let us. Have you got a CNC lathe? No, I don't have a CNC lathe. I've got a CNC mill.
They use left-hand threads north of the equator.
That's it. Everything in the northern hemisphere is the other way around.
Yeah,
so
it
it's,
goes backwards.
yeah.
So that's it there.
Very
275.
effective, very effective muzzle brake. Are these as, and people are going to ask, are these as effective as those New Zealand made ones? What are the New Zealand? Terminator brakes. Okay. My muzzle brake is not as efficient as a Terminator. Yeah. But it is nowhere near as loud as a Terminator, and it keeps the muzzle flip down, which the Terminator doesn't do because it only vents out to the side. So there's advantages to the Terminators, there's advantages to my design. I prefer this design. And so yeah, so if you're looking for a really effective muzzle brake, especially for long range shooting and game hunting as well, because muzzle flip, you lose your target. With one of these on there, you're much easier to stay on target between shots. So if you want one, David 316. All right, so this one's actually a blue muzzle brake. I haven't had it blued yet, but it's 4140. But yes, our stainless steel muzzle brakes are 316. Was invented to frustrate fitters and mechanics who can't work it out when it doesn't undo first go.
Left-hand thread.
And so that's what you do. You give this to, like, I've done it to everyone here. You give it to them and say, can you get that off? And they sit there and go red in the face trying to get it off before you tell them it's left-hand thread.
I got it off.
There's an advantage to supporting local too. There's an absolute advantage to supporting local, because if you're buying from us, the money that, like, we're a small business, yeah? We're not hoarding all of our money in the bank and that sort of stuff. We're reinvesting the money back into the business itself, and it goes into our staff wages. The staff then go out and buy stuff in the general community, and doesn't matter what industry you're in, it's going to help.
And I've seen your bloody comment before too, Kev. You're lucky you haven't lost that hat. All right.
Righty Lucy, yeah, that's right.
He told me that I still didn't have a neck, so I was thinking about taking that out off him and sending it.
Oh, boo-hoo.
I'm just saying, man, I looked after you.
Who's that Kip Hall?
Yeah, Kev.
He needs to be. He's from Tasmania.
Yeah, bloody Tasmanian.
Tasmania, did you?
I'll have to send
He was from over here.
I'll have to send you 2 hats, Kev. Put on both your heads.
No, he had one removed when he had that Tasmanian devil chlamydia taken out. Had some pills for that. So yeah, I'm quite proud of this design, and so if you want to order one, send us a message, send us an email, give us a ring on Tuesday, and it's only a limited number of people that are listening tonight that'll get it at the 275 freighted anywhere in Australia.
Yeah. So let's come up with something for that. So you have to say a certain thing, or
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the FAQ, police FAQ.
Oh,
let's talk about that. We haven't talked about it.
I lost it. No, there it is. Try there. All right. So not much has changed in the FAQ.
I haven't read it.
I couldn't actually find the next one. It was around somewhere and it's disappeared.
What, the highlighted one?
Yeah, it was on your desk.
I've seen that you had highlighted it. But you didn't pick it up, did you, Bill? Well, we need a new one. Well, do you know what's in it? Or?
There wasn't much in it that actually had changed, to be honest. Unfortunately, we were actually hoping that there was going to be a little bit more in there.
It's right here.
Oh, you got it? Excellent. Cool. So,
you rock up late to the bloody FAQ, you got half your paperwork's missing, you didn't bring the scope I asked you to bring. Why are you even here?
That's a good question. Probably because I make the decisions.
Hurry up.
Anyway, so this is
the decision to fuck everything up.
Well, I'm good at it, so I'll just continue. All right. Now, the big one is with primary production and primary producers, the police have now decided that for us
Thanks,
to sell...
Mark. You too. Have a great Anzac weekend. For all you people that didn't know that it was a long weekend, it's a long weekend.
Mark on the hat. He was awesome.
Oh, yeah, Mark on the hat.
Mark on that.
Make sure you get a picture up on Facebook you're wearing the hat.
Alrighty. So primary producer, to get ammunition, you used to have to come in with your rates notice, a stat deck, business registration, and then I could photocopy it, I could take you down, give you what ammo you needed. The police have now decided that...
Christian, I'll come back to your message in a sec.
Should the gun shop have an established long-term relationship with the primary producer and has knowledge of the primary production, no further evidence will be required. However, sufficient notes should be made to this effect. What?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I can see where they're trying to go with this, but you can't threaten someone with a $250,000 fine and then make something as vague as that.
Where do I stand? Okay, I know plenty of primary producers. I've got plenty of good customers that are primary producers. If they come in and decide, the police come in and decide to have a look through our books and say, hey, who have you sold ammo to? And I say, so-and-so. And they say, well, what proof have you got that they're a primary production? And I go, I know.
Long-term relationship.
Is that good enough?
What's a long-term relationship?
Probably not. Probably not. So I was really...
Is there a quantifiable number to that? Is it like 6 months? No. A year?
So
2 years?
That's right.
10 years.
10 years.
So if you've known them for 9.5 years, is that not a long-term relationship? No, so 9 years and 11 months is not a long-term relationship, but 10 years is.
According to Bill.
You know, it's like where do you draw the line?
It just doesn't make sense to me. It's literally put a big grey area over the top of us. Because obviously the police aren't...
Absolutely right, Michael. Setting people up to get fines.
Yeah, they don't...
That's what it appears to be for us.
So, sorry primary producers out there, I might know you. I'm still going to ask for your gear.
It's just too big a risk.
You're still going to need to bring me all your paperwork because it's not a risk I'm willing to take.
And knowledge of primary production. What are they going to come in here with a wheat bag or something, or a bloody bag of wool or something to prove that they're, I don't have a stat deck, but you know, here's some split beans I grew, you know, or here's a box of apples. Although we do get that quite a bit.
We do, thank you, Richard.
Frank Richard comes in here every time he comes in here. The bloke brings in a box of apples, and
they disappear.
And he grows these plum ricots. That's it. So they're a cross between a plum and an apricot. Oh, really good.
The other bit that
long-term relationship, and we've seen his produce. So he's probably the only person that would qualify for that.
He can still bring me his paperwork. Anyway,
but Richard would bring his paperwork in anyway because he's that kind of person.
Yeah. So awesome that they gave us that sort of out. You know, that's awesome. And
I don't think they thought about it.
No. And then they follow it up with ammunition may only be obtained for those firearms that are licensed for occupational use to the primary producer.
That's a big shift.
Some
people, it might appear that that's the same as before, but it's not.
No.
Okay. So the original directive, you can talk about it.
The original directive, which I've got to go back to it now.
Oh, I don't. The original directive was that primary producers could purchase ammunition. Yeah. There was no directive in relation to what firearms were on their license that they could purchase ammunition for. It was just for they identified the people, primary producers, native title, professional hunters. Yeah, and a lot of professional hunters and primary producers and native title, they all have their guns licensed for recreational use because there's no dual licensing in Western Australia. You have to have one gun for occupational use. You have to have another gun for recreational use. Most primary producers are not going to have their guns licensed for occupational use unless they're a Category C, which means that effectively this new directive means that primary producers and professional hunters are out. They can't buy ammo anymore.
Check my head.
So the Indian givers, they give it with one hand and take it away with another.
But they haven't given us anything. They've pretended to give us something.
No, Mac. Bring in 6 dead foxes. Now, what you need to do is you need to bring in 6 dead lambs because it's lambing season at the moment, yeah? Take them up to Parliament House, chuck them on the doorstep.
Yeah.
The other one that I just highlighted here is for you guys of Aboriginal descent. Obviously, your Southwest Aboriginal Land and Sea Council card, we can accept that now. You don't have to have a stat deck. The other one is that
But it says if there's any question to the validity of the card, contact should be made with the Southwest Aboriginal Land.
So
I've never seen one of these cards before, yeah?
If I don't believe that your card's real, which I've got no reason not to believe it's real, because I've seen 2 now and that's it in my entire time, I have to call the Southwest Land and Sea Council to try and validate it. Well,
and they don't know you.
Yeah, well, why are they going to give me any of your information? That's it's okay. The other one is, if you don't have that card, you can have a stat deck that's signed and says that that you identify as an Indigenous Australian, but it does specify that the land and water that is in your native title right to hunt over has to be specified.
So when you have to specify when you come in here where you're going to go hunting.
That has to be on your stat deck. I don't know what that means either. How can I check that?
And how do we check that that's bona fide land?
Yeah,
that you can actually.
I'm going to go
hunt
down
under your native title rights on.
Okay, cool.
And I'm not saying that people are going to come in here and try and fake that. What I'm saying is I have no way of validating that. So what's the point of putting it in there?
Yeah. So what they've done is they've given us the ability now to decide whether you're true or...
When did we get this? We got this today, Stuart. Well, we get one of these updates. Early on, we were getting them every day. Now we're getting them once a week.
Yeah.
They don't answer anything.
And we still don't know
No one's asked any of these questions.
We still don't know what we can and can't do. What colour fucking crayon was that written in?
We printed it out in black and white, sorry mate, so I'm not too sure. We'll have to get up the email.
It's Kep again, he's gone straight to... Mate, we use pens over here. If you guys use crayons, that's fine.
Hammer and chisel, draw it on this bit of papyrus.
Yeah, that's it, but it's all good, mate.
Thumbnail dipped in tar.
Thumbnail dipped in tar. Hieroglyphs. What?
Will it do where there is...
Tribe.
Sorry, it's
moving too fast.
Yeah.
What does that mean if your native lands are outside the Perth Peel region? You can't buy armor because you aren't allowed to leave the region. I'm not sure, John. I don't think so. I think you're entitled to hunt on any native land that you have, or native title that you've got
permission to
shoot on. And you would have to then prove to the guys at the border or the regional boundaries that you're allowed to go and do that.
I'm not sure what they're going to want to see, whether your card from the Land and Sea Council is suffice.
Yep.
But yeah.
So I want to see ID.
Yeah, they'll definitely want to see some ID from you and probably just to prove where you're off to and all that sort of stuff.
But
that doesn't mean
that's not to say that you're not going to get turned around though. They might not deem that sufficient. Like we've had they've said primary producers can come in and buy ammunition, but we've had a client who's a primary producer attempt to drive to us to buy ammunition and been turned around at one of the things because the coppers thought that no, that's not a sufficient reason, even though it's specifically prescribed as a reason. So I can't guarantee you're not going to not get turned around. So I'm not sure, but that might be a question for police licensing.
That's it from me on the
cool.
Frequently asked questions.
All right, so don't know frequently asked questions. We've spoken about the bottle openers. Just grab one. If you are for one of them, $45. Posted anywhere in Australia. Muzzle brakes, $275. Again, posted anywhere in Australia. If you've got any more questions about long-range optics and scopes, put it down in the comments. We'll take note again of all these, and we'll probably have another live video Tuesday, or depends what happens over the weekend. Yeah. But that's all there is to it.
It'll definitely be at least Friday.
Yep.
Because we're going to try and do this every Friday for you guys. No, we won't try. We will. We will do this every Friday for you guys. And
we'll do it at least every Friday.
At least every Friday. We like talking to you. Some of you.
Cheers, Teddy.
Thanks, guys.
And really again, drop any comments down. Hit a like if you like the video, if you want to see more of them.
Remember, tomorrow is Anzac Day.
Is that tomorrow?
Yep, that's the 25th, so that's tomorrow.
Well, it was 26th.
25th tomorrow.
Yep.
It's all on 26th then.
That's Sunday. So what they're doing, because of social distancing, obviously, 5:50, get out the front, stand on your top of your driveway, in your undies, whatever you want to do, and turn on 96 FM, I believe, is actually going to be playing the last post and all that sort of stuff. So get out the front, show your support for the Anzacs, who did many good things for us. You
and
guys,
the ones that are still out there.
yeah, especially the ones that are still out there. Those boys really deserve our support, boys and girls. I shouldn't be that sexist.
Yeah, everyone's giving me shit.
Yeah.
I could have sworn it was a 26, but 20. Yeah, it makes sense. At 25.
Let's go to 25th. But thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. It's a long weekend for WA, so
What I was saying, get your 303 out, stand out in front of your driveway,
in your undies,
fire a round in the air.
That's bad advice. Don't do that. Look at the thumbs up. Beautiful guys. Really appreciate it. So good weekend.
All right, guys.
Catch you later.
Take
We're
it
going to
easy.
go home.